Hey everyone, welcome to the first devlog in a whole series about my personal project where I want to introduce you to the game that I'm working on, the high-level designs and concepts, where I am in the development process, and my future plans and goals. But first, let me introduce you to myself. If you are new to the channel or new to me, my name is Devin Sherry. I've been working in the games industry for just over a decade as a gameplay designer, but over the course of that time, I've worked across a wide range of design disciplines, including systems design, combat design, and technical design, with credits on titles like Aquanox Deep Descent and Outriders World Slayer, and the vanilla Outriders as well as principal technical designer there. My journey into the game development space started back in the early 2010s, where I went to school to study game design and game development. And during that time, as I was learning, I was learning a bunch of different engines, and at that point we were learning the Unreal Development Kit, or UDK for short, and that's where I kind of fell in love with the idea of level design and scripting. And so as I was learning that, I started creating my YouTube tutorials and my YouTube channel surrounding Kismet scripting and level design. So if you go back to my old videos, you'll see stuff back then. But over the years, I kind of evolved that passion into an actual full-time job. I work in the AAA games industry. I've also created and co-authored a handful of Unreal Development related books. And then, of course, I'm still making tutorials and doing live streams where I'm working on this project that I'll tell you a bit more about now. But even before then, back in the day, back in the high school days, me and my friends would play Halo 3, and we used to play with Forge mode, so that was my real first taste of game development, in a sense. Creating your own levels, sharing it with people, having fun. So that's where that spark kind of started, and I've been chasing that ever since. So this project and this devlog series is about building something personal from the ground up while sharing what I've learned and exploring those ideas with you guys without the constraints of my AAA game development job. I want to work on something, grow, and take that knowledge and apply it in my professional career and vice versa. I don't currently have an official title for the project. I just call it Deck Night. At its core, this project serves two purposes. Of course, like I've mentioned, I want to continue my learning journey as a game developer. I want to be better at what I do and grow. But I also want to provide this as a resource for you guys, both the players and other developers. I'll be sharing the development process through live streams on Twitch and YouTube, as well as making the full source code available on GitHub. All the links will be in the description in the video, but we'll talk about it at the end as well for more details. With the source code, it's only going to be the C++ stuff. You're not going to get any of the content, but still, I think it'll be useful for you guys. And of course, due to the restrictions of my full-time job, this project is just educational and learning purposes only. I don't have plans yet to make it a commercial project, so for now we're treating it as a fun little thing to do on the side. But now that we've met each other, let's talk about the project in more detail. At a high level, the game is about blending fast-paced, real-time combat with deck-building mechanics, all within a roguelite structure. Both players and the enemies collect and use cards to activate abilities, grant passive buffs and debuffs, activate traps and summon cards, and other unique gameplay effects. Over the course of a run, those cards can combine and synergize to build towards a powerful, expressive playstyle, one capable of standing up to increasingly large and dangerous waves of enemies. The core goal is to combine the satisfaction of those deck building and card collection elements with the intensity of moment-to-moment action gameplay. Players are challenged not just in how they build their deck, but in how well they can execute that strategy under pressure, rewarding both strategic planning and mechanical skill. And while a lot of deck builders focus on turn-based decision-making, this project is about testing those same strategic ideas under real-time action gameplay pressure. Ultimately, this project is about creating this kind of hybrid experience I personally love to play, one where smart decisions fuel powerful plays, and mastery comes from understanding both the cards in your deck and how to use them in the chaos of actual combat. So to create this game, I'll be using Unreal Engine 5 and the Gameplay Ability System plugin, both of which I'm very familiar with and have shipped multiple titles with. What I have right now and what you're seeing on screen is a very low-level example of how the gameplay will work. I have a character, you can move around, you have a basic melee combo system, you have a melee trace system to deal damage. We have a pretty robust damage pipeline system where we want to make sure that we can damage, we can heal, we have different damage types, we can do status effects, and we also have some examples of cards that you can play on a very, very low level, where cards can increase your movement speed, or can increase your critical chances, or invoke a status effect when dealing critical damage to an enemy. Just kind of examples of what those cards can do. But over time, of course, we want to make those cards synergize. We want to make sure those cards feel powerful. Each card having a cost, having cards get collected, have rarity to them, and kind of imbue some elements from actual trading card games into the actual gameplay as well. Now to talk about the theme and setting, the game is built around two interconnected layers, a high-level meta progression space and a fast-paced in-game combat space that represents that card game itself. So the meta space, I want it to work as if you were playing within a card game tournament. So at the meta level, the game takes place within a series of card game tournaments hosted across different local game stores. But each tournament features a lineup of opponents, all of which have their own unique themed decks, enemy archetypes, and playstyles, and the player's goal is to compete in, and ultimately win, a series of tournaments, working their way towards becoming the regional champion. So within this space, players can talk to NPC opponents and other players at tournaments, build relationships that unlock new cards, strategies, and synergies, build and refine and craft their decks between runs, as well as interact with game store owners to buy, sell, and trade cards, all entirely in-game with no real-world interactions, of course. So this layer focuses on long-term progression, deck strategy, and world building through the lens of a card game community. The second space, the combat space, is the space within the card game itself. So the second layer represents the moment-to-moment gameplay, like the examples I've shown so far, where the player directly controls a character that exists inside the card game itself. So in this space, the player fights through waves of enemies controlled by the opponent they're facing in the tournament. Arenas, enemy types, bosses, and encounter pacing are all themed around that specific opponent, and cards drawn from the deck crafted in the metaspace are used to activate these abilities, these passives and debuffs and traps and summons and these other gameplay mechanics that I've mentioned as well earlier. And so each run is a test of how well the player's deck building decisions hold up under the pressure of real-time combat. And so with progression and rewards, during these combat runs, players earn points and currencies that feed into that first meta layer, and these rewards can be used to unlock and acquire new cards, convert those currencies into resources for future runs, improve character attributes in between attempts, and preserve or enhance cards within the player's deck, as well as unlocking additional strategic options over time. So for example, you can unlock more cards to be in your deck. You can preserve cards inside of a binder so that you can hold them between runs and you don't lose them between runs, as well as improving your character attributes for like base damages, movement speeds, spell cost reductions, and things like that. Now on to the big parts, where I want to talk about the main design pillars of the game. The first pillar is cards are the power fantasy. So cards can take many forms, like I've mentioned before, including the ability to activate abilities, such as raining arrows from above or unleashing powerful spells, summons and companions that can fight alongside the player, passive buffs for the player, or debuffs applied to enemy waves, instant effects like healing and shielding, trap cards that can activate when specific conditions are met, and much more. As players progress through these tournaments, cards can be upgraded, modified, traded, or removed from their deck, and so new cards are unlocked by defeating opponents, collecting enemy index entries, and through other progression systems tied to play and discovery. Opposing enemies and tournament rivals also operate under the same philosophy. They use their own cards to buff their forces, debuff the player, nullify ongoing effects, and shift the flow of combat. Ultimately, cards sit at the core of the game's fantasy. They are the single biggest influence across all game loops, from deck building, combat execution, to progression, and every system in the game exists to support and amplify the power of the cards themselves. Synergy over complexity. Depth comes from the interactions and not the rules. The player should favor a small number of clear mechanics that interact in interesting ways. Players discover the depth by combining cards, not by memorizing exceptions or special case rules. What I want to make sure we support is simple card text, reusable mechanics, and emergent combos. And how I want this to work could be one of two ways or both ways. We'll have to see how things play out when we start prototyping these things. But I want to take inspirations from things like poker, where you have two of a kind, three of a kind, full house, a flush, a straight. You have ways of combining cards to make them a better hand, a stronger suit and everything like that. So it would be interesting to be able to approach it in a similar way, where if you have cards that are related to each other in some way, you can activate them together for stronger effects. So for example, if you have a card that grants you an ability that makes your dodge turn into a fireball while you're moving, you can combine that with a card that spreads out and shoots lava from the sides as well as you're dodging to deal more damage. How that will work in the long run, I'm not sure, but I think it would be interesting to be able to craft a deck and hope for the best when your hands come up, and you get to play these cards in unison within some sort of time window to get these extra effects. In addition, I want to take inspiration from things like Yu-Gi-Oh, if you remember, with the Exodia, where if you collect all 5 pieces of Exodia, you win the game. Obviously, in this context, we don't want you to win the game, but if you collect a whole set of relative cards and you play them all at once, you can get a huge run-defining moment that's super powerful and something super memorable with a high-impact payoff. And so we reward you for kind of crafting your deck in that way. Strategy fuels action. Deck building defines possibilities, and execution proves mastery. Strategic choices determine what the player can do, but success ultimately depends on how well the choices are executed in real-time combat. So neither strategy nor mechanical skill alone should be sufficient, and the game challenges players to excel at both. So as the player unlocks new cards, upgrades existing ones, finds rare ones, they're tasked then to construct viable decks under deliberate constraints such as card count limits, deck size limits, as well as the randomness of drawing a card from the deck itself. And these constraints force players to make meaningful decisions on how they prepare for increasingly difficult tournaments, featuring opponents with distinct enemy archetypes and card pools and build themes. So through progression, players can add new cards to their deck, upgrade or unlock cards to increase their strength and potency, expand available slots for active and passive abilities, and open up new strategic options over time. However, a strong deck is only half the equation. The true challenge lies in how effectively players can execute that strategy, again under the pressure, balancing position, timing, and moment-to-moment combat decisions. Mastery emerges from the intersection of smart planning and skilled action, and it's that balance that sits at the heart of the game's challenge. Failure teaches. Losses create understanding, not frustration. So the roguelike structure should ensure that every failure provides insight about enemies, systems, synergies, and player decision-making. And progress persists primarily through that knowledge and not just unlocks of new cards. And so I want to make sure there's clear feedback on why a run failed, encouragement to experiment, as well as faster iteration and learning. So like every other roguelike, like Hades or Slay the Spire, we want to make sure that we encourage experimentation and not just trying to brute force a strategy in hopes that it'll work. Now that we've talked about the design pillars, let's talk a little bit more about the games and other media that inspire and influence the game. If you couldn't already tell, Hades and Hades 2, of course, are big influences over how I want the gameplay to work. I really enjoyed the fast-paced reactive combat from Hades. I liked how boons and other progressive elements kind of mix together to make you feel powerful in between runs and add that variety in between runs. The controls are very tight and responsive, and I really enjoyed playing it. And I believe others share the same feelings. It's renowned and known for being one of the best roguelike games out there. So of course I want to pull a lot of inspiration from that. On the deck building side of things, I want to pull from Slay the Spire, the way that they use decks in constructing cards and making those cards feel unique and updating your deck in between and during runs. I feel like it's going to be really nice to implement and kind of mix in with the combat from Hades, for example, and kind of defining those synergies of these cards and how they work over time, and making sure those cards are interesting and define your play style, so that a lot of different deck and cards are viable in between each run. Mixing with that, of course, games like Magic the Gathering. I personally don't play Magic the Gathering, but I have some friends who are really into it. So I enjoy watching them play. I really enjoy how you can kind of use these land cards to kind of make your cards more powerful and other cards synergize together, and you can kind of build around themes and environments and elements, and I think that's really cool. So I want to pull from that as well. Deck and card combinations, some cards being really strong, and just having the core power fantasy of these cards, and using Magic the Gathering as a reference, and also things like Gwent and Hearthstone, I think are all viable references in that regard as well. And the last game reference is Risk of Rain, or Risk of Rain 2 to be more specific, just because of how well they do systems-driven design. So, as you get more abilities, all these interactions, and how these elements evolve and connect with each other, you can do really cool, powerful domino effects, and you can escalate your power over time and enemy threats over time as the waves keep coming in and getting stronger. And it also does a roguelike structure pretty well as well, and I want to pull from that too, at least from a systems level, to make each run feel unique and make sure you keep feeling powerful. You never really want these games to make you do a full reset in between runs, unless you want to be that kind of game, I suppose. But for me, I want there to be a meta progression to make you feel stronger and stronger over the course of each run. while also kind of resetting you at a certain point, just so you kind of build and reset in some way. Outside of games, of course, there's shows like Yu-Gi-Oh! That I really loved growing up. I like the idea that these cards can have some sort of identity. I like the connection that Yugi has with Dark Magician. I kind of want to have that shared feeling between the player and the player character, having that synergy and having each character or each opponent you have some sort of identity and feeling towards them. For those who watch the show, you had a lot of interesting characters and opponents that had a lot of cool cards. Forget her name, but there's the woman with the harpies. You had Kaiba with Blue Eyes White Dragon, of course Yugi with the Egyptian themed, and Pegasus and all that stuff. I feel like that's really cool, and I want to pull from that. I want that kind of feeling of drama and character building over time to have the heart of the cards feeling, have the luck of the draw when you're playing your cards, and getting that kind of deck building fantasy from Yu-Gi-Oh! In addition, Pokemon, of course. The trading card game, of course, like anyone else from the 90s, I collected Pokemon cards, and I've recently gotten back into the hobby. I've been watching a lot of creators on TikTok, pulling packs, opening packs, chasing, special illustration rares, and just general collecting. So I want to kind of bring that feeling into this game as well, where you can collect these cards, you can have special chase cards, special illustration rares, where, for example, if there's an ability card that lets you spawn a meteor, maybe there could be a special illustration rare of that card that you can randomly find from pulling packs. And this special illustration rare is like a meteor shower, so instead of just one, it's like 5 or 10 over the course of some time, making it kind of fun to use your in-game currency that you earn through runs to buy packs and chase cards and trade with NPCs and things like that. I think that'll be an interesting meta level, so that deck building has the sense of collection, but also just the construction of the decks themselves. And so all these elements combined, I want to use as references for how the gameplay, the second to second, minute to minute, hour to hour, kind of work in unison. Everything again comes from the cards, activating the cards, using them at the right time, chasing these cards that you need to make your deck more powerful, constructing synergies. All that wrapped in like a meta level where you're just playing in card tournaments, playing with other opponents, and fighting against different decks and teams and things like that. So as for the art style, this is where things are more unknown. Just because myself, I'm not an artist by trade. I'm a gameplay designer, so I just like working with systems and gameplay mechanics. So right now I'm just kind of exploring as much as I can. I know I want to have a stylized medieval fantasy aesthetic, and I want to make sure that we can blend magic and technology, something similar to League of Legends and Arcane, just because having that kind of blend gives us a lot of flexibility on what the cards can do, what the player character can do within the card game itself. The art style for that meta level where you're playing in card tournaments, that can also be stylized in some way. I still need to figure out if I want it to be more 2D focused or have some sort of 3D space you navigate when you're in these card shops and challenging opponents, or if it's more of a 2D climbing the ladder kind of situation. But again, having that blend, that stylized aesthetic, I think will make the game stand out. Everyone talks about how Unreal Engine games all kind of look the same, so I want to make sure we avoid that as much as possible, giving the game a unique identity, while also kind of benefiting from the power of Unreal Engine. What you're seeing right now on screen is just my playable character and some Unreal Engine marketplace assets that I found that kind of articulate what I'm trying to do with the stylized aesthetic. It's not finalized, of course, but it kind of gives you the idea of the direction that I'm going in. And of course, as the project evolves and as I connect with other developers who may want to collaborate, the art direction could change and become more cohesive. But for now, I'm just focusing on finding the right visual language, making sure it makes sense, it's readable, and it all supports the gameplay rather than locking anything in right now. And so as the game evolves, like I said, the art style most likely will change as well. Well, if you're still watching, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. I hope this video gives you a solid introduction to the kind of game that I want to make. A lot of these things, a lot of the mechanics and design pillars I'm still working out, trying to figure out what feels good, how these cards should work, how the UI should work, how the controls need to work, all of which are things that I believe I can do on my own as a gameplay designer. That is my forte. That is where I do my best work in combat design and systems design. But as you've seen, I am using assets from the Unreal Engine Marketplace for the time being to populate these prototypes, just so I can focus on the systems. But I am interested in connecting with you guys, any other developers who might want to collaborate on this project. As I mentioned at the top of the video, it is only a learning experience right now. It's only for education purposes only. So I can't really offer any sort of financial compensation. But if you're interested in that process and learning and growing and contributing, whether that's in the design department, programming, art, audio, VFX, any other kind of discipline, I would love to hear from you. In the description of the video, you'll find links to my Twitch, YouTube, Discord, and my email. So make sure to reach out in either way that you are more comfortable with. I would love to hear from you and kind of see how we can collaborate in the future. And a big part of this project is sharing this development openly with you guys. I'll be working on this game on live streams on Twitch and YouTube, where you can see the work happening in real time, and you can ask me any kind of questions, discuss design decisions, yell at me, make fun of me, do whatever you want to do. So if you want to support that, the best way to do so is to watch those live streams. I don't want you to do anything with Patreons or financing me in any way. This is all for learning purposes and just growing and trying to make a really cool game that I think will be fun. We'll have to see, and we'll find that out together. And like I mentioned, there is going to be a link to my Discord server in the description in the video below. That's where we can connect. We have a small community there. I'm not going to say it's the most bumping Discord server ever, but there's a lot of cool people in there, and I'd like to see that community grow. And there we can kind of discuss this game, discuss issues with your projects, try to help each other, share resources, and everything like that. And of course, I will be sharing the source code for this project available on GitHub. The link will be in the description as well. So if anyone's interested, you can check out that code. It's only going to be the code. You're not going to have any sort of content, of course, because it's all Unreal Engine Marketplace stuff, so I don't have the rights to do that. But you can at least see the source code, and you can reverse engineer things, see how I did some stuff, and critique it, change it, modify it, do whatever you want with it. And of course, if any of this sounds interesting, consider subscribing to this YouTube channel. Make sure to follow on Twitch. And of course, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the project, what you hate, what you like, what resources I should use, what references I should take into consideration, games I should play, and things like that. So thanks for watching, and I hope you'll stick around for the next devlog, where we'll jump into more about implementation, some of like the designs and the damage pipelines, and kind of the nitty-gritty stuff about the project. So until then, see you around.